Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chris Buggles Album Club. So, as usual, today we will be doing two albums randomly selected from a list of weirdly weird at this point pairings, and list of albums, and it just pairs them against each other. Today with me as usual, I've been.
How do we dance while the earth is turning?
We got my boy Matthew.
Fuck it, psycho!
Fan.
How do you sleep when the beds are burning?
Not very well. And we also have Paper.
I forgot what I was gonna say. My apologies.
Happens to us all. Alright, you guys ready to hear what today's albums are?
Sure.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Today's albums are Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan.
Oh!
And Matthew just like orgasms every time he hears Bob Dylan's name. Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. And the other album is hold on, Ben, I'm getting feedback from your mic, sorry. Okay, the first album was Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan, in case everyone missed that. And the other album is Hot Space by Queen.
Oh my god!
So we're doing Bob Dylan versus Queen, and both of these albums are usually considered kind of black sheep in their picks, so I don't think everyone would consider the worst albums, but except maybe some Queen fans might think that about Hot Space, but it's usually considered kind of a oddball ones that kind of feels like a group of like kind of a cult that likes them within the fan base, and then there's like the ones who don't like them at all. So it's a little bit less true, I think, of Blood on the Tracks than it is of Hot Space. But it's Blood on the Tracks. Sorry, I thought it was Slow Train Coming. I got them mixed up. Sorry. Oof, Big L. Santiago's gonna kill me.
So, which Bob Dylan album are we doing? Blood on the Tracks or Slow Train Coming?
Sorry, I thought it was Slow Train. See, they both have train motifs. It's Blood on the Tracks that we're doing. Sorry, I thought this was Slow Train Coming versus Hot Space would be more interesting, but no, this is Blood on the Tracks. Sorry, very one-sided episode incoming, I guess. I was mixed up. Well, we're going to just go through the motions here anyways. Ben, what are your initial thoughts on this pairing?
Well, despite what Christopher said earlier of not being true, and his saying that like this is a Blood on the Tracks.
So I thought it was Slow Train Coming, which was from '79.
Hey.
I will know,
Slow
but I
Train Coming is a good album, and I heard nothing about it.
Yeah, it would have been a more interesting pairing with Slow Train Coming, I think. But anyways, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw Matthew listening to Slow Train. I saw Matthew listening to a song from Slow Train Coming yesterday. Anyway, no, this is Blood on the Tracks. This is Bob Dylan's best album in my opinion, and the one that I go back to the most. It has many excellent songs that have very detailed thoughts on, like Tangled Up in Blue, like Idiot When, like Lily Was Married and the Jack of Hearts. Those are the three ones I like the best, but I really like it. I really like every song on this album. I've heard this album like 10 times at least. I don't know. I mean, I could spend the next 30, 40 minutes discussing this album, but there's no point in doing
Save
that.
Save that for the end of the video.
Yeah. I don't know if I've heard all of Hot Space. There was one excellent 10 out of 10 song on it, which is his final track. But
Cool Cat.
What?
Cool Cat is the 10 out of 10. Cool Cat is the 10 out of 10 song.
Yeah, he's type of body language actually.
Yeah, I mean, but I know that this is kind of a controversial album. Apparently, Michael Jackson was a big fan of it, though. So I've heard a lot of Queen albums. I'm not sure if I've heard this one, though. I've heard about, like, 10. No, that's probably not why. 10 Queen albums. I don't know. I've heard a lot of Queen albums, but I don't think I've heard this one. It's basically all I mean. But the final track of this, album is a 10 out of 10 song. That's what I mean. Well, there were multiple 10 out of 10 songs on Blood on the Tracks, so I guess we'll see, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a surprise what my opinion is going to be.
And I will say, just here briefly, right before I revealed this pairing, just a little bit ago, Ben was actually rambling about Hootie and the Blowfish in the chat, so he actually predicted we were going to be doing Blood on the Tracks. So even though I had the album wrong, he had it right. He was talking about Hootie and the Blowfish, and, I only want to be with you.
It was not rambling, it was a pun. It was just a pun.
Alright, but I was going to try to avoid giving a huge amount of context, but in case these episodes for some reason nailed out of order, but okay. Alright, Matthew.
This is the best Bob Dylan album. It is also my favorite Bob Dylan album. I have been on a recent uptick of listening to Bob Dylan, and I would consider myself a fan of Bob Dylan. So I am looking forward to that. It's not a bad day to listen to Blood on the Tracks. As for this Queen album, I have heard a bunch of songs from this. I have not heard it in full. But, yeah, that's all I'll say.
Fan.
Well, of course, Dylan. Everybody knows about this album. Yeah, we've played Simple Twist of Fate, Entangled Up in Blue. Played those many times in cover bands and stuff. Very well known, very well liked album. I don't like Queen. They're arguably my least favorite band, so I'm dreading this week. As soon as you announced that, I just slumped. Oh God, I gotta listen to this. I am not excited.
Fan, he will be tortured. Sorry, Fan, but you're just gonna have to suck it up. Sorry. Now we're going on to Paper.
I'm not a fan of this matchup just because reasons. Actually, I think I'll save it for the I'll save it.
That's fair. Okay. Always good to save something. That's about it for Paper. As for me, well, I'm probably going to be saving most of my thoughts later too. Suffice it to say, I own both these albums on vinyl record. I also own Slow Train Coming, but we're not actually doing Slow Train Coming. I was confused. It's Blood on the Tracks that we're doing. We may talk a little bit about Slow Train Coming too, though. At least I will, because I've already gone and added it in somehow, so. But anyways, I am a big fan of both Queen and Bob Dylan as artists in and of themselves. Don't want to comment too much about how I feel about these albums specifically, other than suffice it to say, Blood on the Tracks is not my favorite Bob Dylan album. But I'll save the rest of, because some people said that, but that it was theirs, so I just want to make it clear it's not mine. But I do like it. And I will be going into greater depth here once we go listen to the albums. So, a lot of people kind of kept their chords close to their chest here at the opening. I feel like that makes sense. You have bands like, a band like Queen and an artist like Bob Dylan, both very well known. Of course, we weren't going to have anyone here who's like, I don't know how Bob Dylan is, or I don't know what Queen is, so it's just not, oftentimes we have, oh, well, I've never heard of this album, or whatever from these people, but, that was never going to happen here. So yeah, we're going to go listen to these albums, and we will be right back with our thoughts on them, so stay tuned. Alright, we are back and have listened to the albums, and the first album was Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. And as usual, we're starting with you, Ben. What are your thoughts on this album?
Someone's got it in for me, inventing stories in the press. Anyway, this is my favorite Bob Dylan album. I could go on indefinitely about it and its tracks because I listen to this album not constantly, but once every few months. But instead of doing that, I'm going to just talk about a few elements that I like, so we're not here all day. So obviously Tangled Up in Blue with its non-linear story, its very kind of vivid imagery, and his portrayal of a romance that ended but he hopes can continue. Even though there's a lot of dark elements to that song, if you know what I mean. I think it works as an excellent opening track, 10 out of 10 song, just really great song. I'm sure we could maybe just, well, I mean, we can discuss in more detail if people want, but I think that it's worth emphasizing. It's excellent lyrics. Early one morning, the sun was shining. I was laying in bed, wondering if she'd changed at all, if her hair was still red. Her folks, they said, our lives together sure was gonna be rough. It never did like Mama's homemade dress. Papa's bank book wasn't big enough. And I was standing on the side of the road, rain falling on my shoes, headed out for the East Coast. Oh knows I've paid some dues getting through. Tangled up in blue. Right, I mean, there's also a real sense of traveling in this song that I think works well. I reference the East Coast, but also walking in the he walks in the Great North Woods, which is in the full north of this country, but way down in New Orleans, where a lot of the song takes place. So there's kind of this real sense of like rootlessness, of kind of moving around, of chaos in that sense. Chaos may be not the right word, but listlessness. Alright. That also relates to the relationship and the relationships with other people. For instance, the slave dealer. I don't know. I do think it's interesting that I'm pretty sure there's at least one part of the song that only takes place at 68, but the rest of it feels just kind of this like out of time element. I almost. So now I'm going back again. I gotta get to her somehow. All the people we used to know, they're illusion to me now. Some more mathematicians, some more corporals' wives. Don't know how it all got started. I don't know what they do with their lives. But me, I'm still on the road, headed for another joint. We always did feel the same. We just saw it from a different point of view. Tangled up in blue. Alright, this kind of sense of, yeah, I mean, as Crystal says, time out of mind, or like a detemporal element to it. I mean, story is already non-linear, but it feels like I don't know how it all got started. I don't know what the present is. It's just continuing. Yes. The next song of this album, Simple Trusted Fate, is also an excellent song. It's like a 9 out of 10 song. He's clearly, I feel like he's sleeping with a prostitute, maybe, in it. It feels unsure, but he's sleeping with someone. That he picked, well, the person picked him out. Not he picked them out. I noticed, because he's wanting them to pick him out again. So that, there's still a real wistfulness to the song, though. It's a very excellent song, I think. Once again, very vivid imagery. The fourth song of this album, Idiot Wind is my favorite song in the summer. Probably my favorite Bob Dylan song. It is a novel and kind of a classic genre for Bob Dylan. The Here's the List of Things That Wrong with All Relationships song. He has a lot of songs where he's angry at the person he's breaking up with, especially in the 60s. This song starts like that in a very entertaining manner. Right? That is, I already said at the beginning of the episode. At the beginning of the section. Someone's got it in for me. They're planting stories in the press. But yeah, there's like angle of a press that starts. So its full starts is kind of like oddly detached. I don't know what else to say about that. It starts out like, well, not oddly detached. Personally, Bob Dylan is himself, clearly. But it's like, the person that he's mad at first is just like, someone's planting stories in the press, then it becomes the press, which, is composed of concrete people. It's kind of this vague thing, though. But then it changes to, then people, right, so raises all the way up to, like, people that he's bad at. And then, even you, yesterday, then it becomes about, he has these frustrations at someone, the press, people, but then it becomes this kind of classic style Bob Dylan song. Well, it's being mad at go formal level. And he does engage in a lot of funny insults, I'd say. At least entertaining. It's a wonder you still know how to breathe. But how chorus is like that. Well, he then once again vividly describes his relationship with Paul, his like sense of anger at Paul. This kind of idea that he even envisions Paul dead. The idiot wind will be blowing through the flowers on her tomb. But the song begins to change throughout it. And this song is quite long, but it begins to move to being like this kind of sense of like melancholy begins to affect the angle. I will be like he still calls her corrupt ways. He says the whole corrupt ways have made her blind, but he begins to take this tone of like, it was gravity that pulled us down and destiny that broke us apart. But it begins to be a little bit more about himself there. You tamed the lion in my cage, but it wasn't enough to change my heart. And then following that verse, there's the best line in the entire song, which is, idiot wind blowing like a circle around my skull, from the Grand Coulee Dam to the Capitol. Which has both this vision of like America's geography, flying all the way to the Capitol, but of course the Capitol and the skull are in some sense the same thing. But then the song beyond that begins to move into this sense of clearly the problem is also him. He can't feel her anymore. He can't even touch the books she's read. But he's beginning to like loathe himself. Or that's beginning to be expressed at least. I think it's in almost the time. In some ways connects back to the beginning. But I think the real turning point, this is very foreign to the song, but the real turning point of the song is, you'll never know the hurt I suffered, nor the pain I rise above. And I'll never know the same about you, your holiness, or your kind of love, and it makes me feel so sorry. It's like the end But that is a big like the turning point of the song. Right, the final chorus is idiot when blowing through the buttons of all coats, blowing through the rattles that we wrote. Idiot when blowing through the dust upon our shelves. Well, idiots, babe. It's a wonder we can even feed ourselves. The song moves from being angry in the abstract to angry at the concrete person to angry attentive of melancholy to pure kind of is felt mode. And I think that makes this the best Bob Dylan song. That it has this like really complicated emotional arc to it. Alright, which then feeds into some of the overall sentiments later on in this album, such as you're gonna make me lonesome when you go, which is about country music style of thing. Um, um, and then I will say literally was Melody and the Jack of Hearts or later. But this kind of idea, and if say hello. I mean, a lot of it seems to be processing his divorce. And towards the end, right, was kind of overtoned to this, but in a more sentimental way, to this idea found in Tangled Up in Blue, right, that I've got to get back to her somehow, or at least some type of like friendly sentiment. I bet in another excellent track, Shelter from the Storm, right, that back in the past, I come in, she said, I give you shelter from the storm. I do think it's interesting that this is also detemporalized in the song. Right, opens with it was in another lifetime, one of toil and blood. It's like it is taken up in various different contexts within the song, but they're all detemporalized. Well, eventually they become spatialized, like living in a foreign country bound to cross the line. But it ends up having this very like abstracted sense that's even less concrete than in Tangled Up in Blue. Because as I said, there is a reference in there that I think it's to 68. Um, right. And the final song, Buckets of Rain, is just he still kills and it's bringing him misery. And it, just wanting his wife back, ultimately. Anyway, now let's talk about Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. Because I think that this is an excellent song. It's less clearly about his breakup than anything else. It's still a story song. But I think it's a very underrated song. I'm not gonna repeat the entire story of the theft of the mortal, but it deals with the Big Jim, the owner of the Diamond Mine, his wife, his mistress, and then a gang of thieves that comes in and ends up, even though they're just robbing, in some sense, the dynamics with them, and with Big Jim, and between Big Jim's women, Lily and Rosemary, and the Jack Port's leader of a gang of thieves, ends up allowing for self-realization, actually, through murdering him. Rosemary, in some sense, self-realizes through murdering Big Jim. Right, which then means that this, I don't know, it's a very excellent country story song. I think it's an excellent example of that. The story is quite entertaining to me. But yeah, this idea of self-realizing, right, through the model of the villain, so to speak. Even though the hero is the outlaw, right? Outlaw. subsist by being not outlaw country like musically. By that the wife ends up killing him as like a self-realization. I think it's a very evocative image. I don't know. It's also just I find it very entertaining. I'm gonna let it go now. This is an excellent album. I think everyone should listen to it. I've described it in an insane amount of detail. So I don't know. I'm gonna turn it over to Matthew.
Matthew.
This is Bob Dylan's best album for a reason. This is just a masterpiece of an album. I think it's probably the best album of 1975, with like some competition from "Wish You Were Here" by Pink Floyd, which I also consider that to be the best Pink Floyd album. This album is all hits and no misses. It's just excellent. Um, what can I say? It's one of the most perfect albums that I've ever listened to. I don't think there's a single weak track on this album. This is Bob Dylan's magnum opus. What can I say?
Okay, my computer's locked up.
Alright.
Hold on, sorry about that. My computer briefly locked up and I was unable to unmute. Alright, Van, it's your turn next. What are your thoughts on this album?
So obviously I like this album a lot. Definitely in the higher tiers that we've done on the album club, obviously. You know, a lot of great music. Tangled Up in Blue, Ben went through the lyrics fairly thoroughly. I'll go through some of the music. We'll kind of team up on that good. The arrangement Tangled Up in Blue I was really impressed on. They really built up the instruments really well, just adding more pianos, adding more guitars, just lots of depth. Obviously, some of the best lyrics ever written. It's just like the one thing I really noticed was, despite adding an ever-adding array of instruments, that the focus is very much still on Bob, and that's such a good, such good production that despite constantly adding more and more and more, the only thing you're focusing on is Bob's voice first and foremost. Of course, you're focusing on everything, but the main focus is always Bob. I'm gonna go into some music theory fan here. We're gonna move into that. We're good for Simple Twist of Fate. Because I love this chord progression and I want to break it down. So, it's got that. It's got that manipulating the one note type chord progression. It's not uncommon. The moving down, the descending, famously used in My Funny Valentine, plenty of other tunes. Although I guess I don't know for sure, but we know for sure Bob Dylan has had to have heard My Funny Valentine in his life before the recording of this. So we were talking the key of C that does have a capo on 4, but using C shape, so we're just going to use C. So he's using a walking down bass line in C major on an acoustic guitar, which is totally weird already. So we go from C to C over B, which is a C major 7, to C over B flat, which is a C7, to F, which is the really nice jump from the B flat to F is a nice 5-1 for the bass movement, but of course the chord being a 4-1 being the C to F. Which those two mixing together adds a lot of ambiguity to what's going on, adding a lot of flavor there. Then we get to what I think is if this change wasn't in here, I wouldn't be talking about any of this. But that F to F minor is crazy. I love a good, major to minor thing, and it works so well here because you're descending the low note, for 3 for 2 different change progressions, and then you lower the third and the F as soon as you get there. It's unreal. I love this. And then not wanting to use the high notes because there's no high G in this whole song. Bob uses the G chord without the high E string at all for the first time. And then he uses a D minor 7 over G and a G sus4, anchoring the F on the first fret as opposed to the G on the third, which just kind of adds a lighter, breezy quality. We never go above the F, the high F, at all on this progression, which just kind of adds a lot of kind of lower textures as opposed to the more triumphant vibe you might get with the full G sound. It's just kind of a lot of nuance. Incredible stuff. Really, really, really love this progression. And then as we move on through the record, I really like once they kind of get the full band feel, drumming, the organ and stuff. I like You're a Big Girl Now and Idiot Wind. I wish the bass was a little louder. That's my only complaint, but I'm loving the big jazz chords on the keyboard in Big Girl, specifically. It's just excellent song after song. Lily and Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts was fun. Nearly 9 minutes of that country beat is a bit much, I will say, but they have the moxie to pull it off. They definitely pull it off for sure. And then I'm going to talk about an experience I had listening to this, which is something that I've never really had before. So this is just totally cool. For the last 3 songs, usually I'm really analytical. You do analysis and stuff, but what I did for the last 3 songs was I just kind of lied down with my headphones on and just kind of closed my eyes and just listen. And somehow, I don't know how, turned off the analysis part of my brain, and I just lied there, and I was kind of like half asleep, right? But as I was in this half sleep, half awake, I was picturing myself in the songs. I could see everything that Bob was presenting. The lyrics were becoming what I was seeing. And I was able to go to the vibrant worlds Bob was describing for the last 3 tracks. If You See Her, Say Hello, Shelters of the Storm, and Buckets of Rain. And it was just so surreal being in these worlds. And it was just, like I said, I was like a half dream, half awake thing where I was able to envision myself where Bob was telling me I was. And it was incredible. It was like, I have to imagine this is exactly what Bob Dylan wanted for everybody to hear, for everybody to experience when they listen to his records. Because, first and foremost, Bob is a storyteller before a songwriter. He's definitely a songwriter, but I believe storyteller first. And I don't think too many people would get upset with that. Obviously, he's saying cool chord progressions. I just spent like 2 minutes describing Simple Twist of Fate. But I think first and foremost, he is a storyteller that uses music as his medium of choice to tell stories. And to be able to be in the worlds he was creating was just amazing. And then as the album ended, YouTube Music played Lido Shuffle, and that kind of woke me up. I'm like, okay, this part is done. This part of my day is done, unfortunately. I love Lido Shuffle. I know Chris knows that, but banger song. But I was like, okay, this is very much not the same experience, but I mean, this is just amazing. Amazing record, If you can, just let Bob take you where he wants to take you, because that's ultimately the point of this.
PayPal.
All right, so I think that this is a good album. I think the songwriting is really good, and instrumentation is really good, but I just can't get past his voice. I'm not a fan of his voice. That's really the biggest hurdle for me to enjoy Bob Dylan. but I'm not gonna lie and say that his songwriting isn't great, because I do like Tangled Up in Blue, despite his voice, but because the songwriting is just that good. Speaking of Tangled Up in Blue and Idiot Wind, listening to this album, I realized that Only Want to Be With You by Hootie and the Blowfish pays homage to those songs. But Bob Dylan sued them about that, so not cool, Bob. Not much to say. Sorry. Good singing, it's good songwriting, not really that good singing.
Alright. And at the end, that brings us to me, and people have said a lot on this album already. We've been going on for like almost 40 minutes, but yeah, so basically I do like this album much more than obviously Paper. I have been a big honestly kind of a defender of Bob Dylan's voice. I think it certainly works for the types of songs he sings. I may actually be the person here who's most pro Dylan's voice. I think every so often Bob Dylan can really actually pull out some good vocal performances. I'm not going to say any of his best performances here or on this album, but still, I generally think it works well for his style. Sounds good, personally. As for the rest of this album, though, I mean, very good. We have good selection. Tangle Up in Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, Your Big Goal Now, Idiot Wind, and Lily Rose Mary and the Jack of Hearts all really good. Own Shelter from the Storm, If You See Her Say Hello, all good songs. This is one of the top Bob Dylan albums, but I will say it is not my favorite Bob Dylan album, like Ben said. I think maybe Matthew said that as well, although he can correct me if I'm wrong. I do personally prefer his run with Bring It All Back Home, Highway 61 Revisited, and Blonde on Blonde better, personally. Better than Blow on the Tracks. I also think I may like the free rolling Bob Dylan better as well. Just not sure. But I will say, though, still, this one's up there. It is one of his all-time greats. It is an all-time great album. It's one of the best albums of 1975. I wouldn't say it's the best album of 1975 because, if I recall correctly, that was the Your Face Music came out. But it's up there. It's up there. I will say some of these songs, and especially Tangled Up in Blue, are among Bob Dylan's best songs. Tangled Up in Blue is... it's not my favorite Bob Dylan song, but it's top 10, probably. Maybe top 5. I don't think it's top 3, but it's top 5, maybe top 10. Definitely, I think, within the top 10. But, yeah, basically, that's about it. I do really think this is a great album. There's not a huge amount I can say that Ben and Van didn't already cover. It's very well produced. I think it's well sung, although I feel like Paper at least disagrees. And yeah, I basically agree with what Fan had to say on the lyrics. Alright, does anyone wish to have any other conversation, any other debate on this album in here?
I do not think that Face of Music is anywhere as close to Blood on the Tracks. That's all I'll say.
He's right. If I love Blood on the Tracks, it is quite a bit less good to me.
I would like to say that while Matthew said that in text, there isn't any ELL album that's one of the best albums of that year. I do not agree with that. But I do agree with Matthew that Blood on the Tracks is better than Face the Music. Face the Music has some really great songs on it, but it's just not as good of an album, and it's not as consistent. It's still a consistent album, but it's not as consistently good as Blood on the Tracks is. And even Evil Woman, which is an excellent song, it's songwriting. Well, its lyrics are still not as good as some of the songs on here. Still great lyrics, still really great songwriting in terms of like hooks, etc. But so it's kind of a difficult comparison in that regard. But I do think Blood on the Tracks ends up killing it. Like I would pick "Idiot Win" as my favorite song of this year. And probably "Tangled Up in Blue" is number 2. If an Evil Woman is Straight. All excellent songs though. 10 out of 10s.
I do want to say Face the Music does have the best ELO song, though, and that's Fire on High.
It's a big one.
I think that Discovery has the best. Well, no, I don't even think Discovery has the best ELO song. I think the first album has the best ELO song.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, it's not my personal opinion, but I can't argue with that. Yeah, I know you're a big
All
fan
right,
of
let's
that.
go to. All right, let's go from the best Bob Dylan album to one of the Queen albums.
Yeah, well, we're going on now to Hot Space by Queen. This is, as I said, a video among some fans considerable Queen fell off, but then there also seems to be kind of a subset these days of Queen fans who like really love this one and think it's like great, but like in a different way. So, kind of a weird matchup here. So that's just kind of a little bit more of backstory for those of you watching who aren't as familiar with Queen or for Queen fan base or anything like that. But we're going to you, Ben. Sorry to kind of drag that out. What were your thoughts on this album?
Yes. So this album does have like one really, really, really 10 out of 10 song, which is its fourth single, "Under Pressure." That is just such a great song. It is the second best song of 1981. This was from 1982 though. But the one that's better is of course "Twilight" by Electric Light Orchestra. And "Time" by Electric Light Orchestra is the best album of that year. But 1981. Just had to say that. Relevant to the previous conversation. But, anyway. Under Pressure is such a great song. Its beat is so iconic. I think everyone knows it. Partially because of the sample of it, but it's also much better than the sample of it. It's I don't know. It's an excellent song. It is like there's a couple Queen songs from later on that are great, like I was about to say Lady Gaga, but that's not right. Radio Gaga. But Under Pressure in some ways is like the last great song that is by this band, Queen. Though if you want to say Radio Gaga, I will count them. And there's probably other ones you could justify. But it is an excellent song. David Bowie's work on it is excellent. Freddie Mercury's work on it is excellent. The instrumentation is excellent. Just a great song. We all know about how it was sampled extensively without credit in Ice Ice Baby. Going back to this whole plagiarism topic. I don't think sampling is plagiarism. I don't think that was really plagiarism, but it was pretty blatant.
Ben.
And they should have given Finai should have given credit to all the people that wrote it.
Ben.
Yes?
I just want to mention briefly, for viewers, that was a little devoid of context because you never had the plagiarism conversation when it came to Hootie and the Blowfish and Bob Dylan here in voice. You only had it in text.
Yes, so Idiot Wind was accused of no, it wasn't accused of plagiarism. Only Want to Be With You by Hootie and the Blowfish, their big song, does left with acknowledgement. I mean, let me go pull up the exact lyrics of that.
It's weird we're doing two albums that have songs with kind of like minor plagiarism controversies. It's
yeah, I mean, Only Want to Be With You says, I mean, it's kind of a citation. I put a little Dylan sitting on a fence, I say that line is great. You asked me what it meant by said I shot a man named Gray, took his wife to Italy. She inherited $1,000,000, and when she died, it came to me. I can't help it if I'm lucky.
See, because he
I only want to be with you.
See, because he deliberately named, and he also says, "Yeah, ain't Bobby so cool?" Later on, he does literally name drop Bob Dylan, so I personally don't consider it plagiarism. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm tangled up in blue. I only want to be with you. Anyway.
And as for just
it's more of a citation than anything else, but it's a rock quote.
Just while on this subject, I want to move us back to Queen and the Queen plagiarism issue. I will say personally, and I'm sorry if I'm interrupting our time a little here, Ben, but I will say personally, my view of Queen is it is sampling. Isis Baby did sample Under Pressure. It was overly reliant on its sample. It did too much in way of sampling, but I don't necessarily think there was bad intent exactly.
Yeah.
It was just kind of low effort. I'm not I wouldn't, if I was like in a jury on a plagiarism case, I would not vote to convict.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the lawsuit resulted in Bowie and the Music Queen getting songwriting credit. They should have just been given songwriting credit to begin with, as my instinct. But yeah, I mean, Under Pressure is still, I mean, it's an excellent song, as I said. It also has some evocative lyrics. Not in the same way that Bob Dylan's although, but it's a great song. The rest of Hot Space it's a Queen album. I don't think I'd say it's a bad Queen album, but it's not a great Queen album either. Some good parts to it, but I don't know. Like, I'm curious what other people thought about Body Language. I'm an openly gay song, which I will appreciate, but it could be pretty corny at times. Its lyrics were quite, yeah. But that was also a hit. That was a number 11 hit. Which is good, and especially relative to the 80s. I mean, I'm glad, but I don't know. The way, the metaphor is kind of funny. Anyway. I thought that the use of Spanish on La Palabras de Amor was still pretty good. Though it's a little bit weaker than the Spanish on other previous Queen albums, I think. But I thought it was pretty good. It has been interpreted by Argentinians, to call back to a previous episode, as supporting them in the Falkland War. Which is like, I don't know about that. That's not what the lyrics say. But I don't know. The album altogether was like okay. There was like, compared to other previous Queen albums, there's not as many like, oh, here's like this deep cut. I mean, to the extent that you have deep cuts on like very famous albums. There's no song on here that is like, I'm blanking out the name of this song now. Give me a second. I'm blanking out the name of the song, but I remember what sucks. Oh, 39, yeah. Like, there's no song like that on here that's like, oh, this is a really excellent, in that case, by May song. This one is, and there are songs sung by people over 30 on here, but they're not like standouts like that is. So there's not like, oh, here's my favorite deep cut from this album. So, of course, maybe we can ask how much of a favorite it really is if I forgot the name of it. But that's an excellent song. So check out the song 39. It is not on this album. It is instead on An Eye of the Opera, and was the B-side to You're My Best Friend. Anyway, I am going to hand over to Matthew since I know he has lots of thoughts about Queen.
Alright, so Queen was probably the first band in my life which I love, and even today is one of my favorite bands of all time. I remember as a young boy watching in the early days of YouTube Queen music videos like Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, probably We Are the Champions. I don't remember that part. But I will say that I really love. I will say, unlike certain people in the world, maybe in this panel, I really like Queen. That being said, I thought this album was bad. I didn't think it was good whatsoever. I only really liked one song, which is Cool Cat, which Ben said that there was no deep cuts in this album. I personally disagree. That is the one deep cut of this album that's actually quite good. It is one that I go, um, yeah, I didn't like Under Pressure. I think I never liked Under Pressure, to be completely honest with you. I think it is one of the more overrated Queen songs. Um, Ben says, "Oh, that was the last big hit um of Queen." I disagree. I think "I Want to Break Free" is a way better song than Under Pressure, and it has more meaning than Under Pressure. Um, you know, this album is not good. And it kind of speaks to me that I am more into 70s Queen than 80s Queen. Although 80s Queen has also did one of my favorite Queen songs, Radio Gaga, and they also did Who Wants to Live Forever, which is also pretty solid. And that's all I'll say.
I think that it is fair to say that I Want to Break Free. Oh, I mean, I had said that I thought Radio Gaga, which was the first single from that album, but I Want to Break Free. I think it's a fair song to say is like one of the last big songs. But yeah, they get really uneven in the 80s. They're still good stuff though, but I don't know. Under Pressure seems like the last top 10. Honestly, I don't really think that many Queen songs are top 10 anyway. Other than Somebody to Love and Under Pressure. But top 10 of their years. When I say top 10, but a lot of them are like top 20. But Under Pressure is like the closest. I mean, that's like a top 3 song of that year. I said top 2 actually. Well, I Want to Break Free. It's a strong song though. Like I'll give that to you.
I have very interesting Queen takes, but more of my Queen takes on 70s Queen than 80s Queen, so I'm going to refrain from giving most of those right now. But as for Under Pressure, I want to say Under Pressure.
Let fans speak, please. Sister.
Matthew, please do not talk over me. I am the host here.
Well, I think
Fan, we're going to get back to you, okay? Sorry, Fan, we're going to get back to you. I just... Hold on, please. Let's try to wait a minute. Just... We'll get to you in just a minute, Fan. I feel like your viewpoint, though, is a little bit different from the ones that are currently being given, that are kind of more friendly to Queen, and I feel like just randomly inserting you here in the middle of this conversation of Under Pressure is not necessarily the best. Please, just give me a minute, guys. Alright, as for Under Pressure, I will say it's, I think, a little bit overplayed on the radio by people in general, but it is still really good. It's not the best Queen song, in my opinion, but I still think it's a really good song. And now we're going on to Fan. And Fan, what were your thoughts on this album?
Okay, well, this was just bizarre. I don't know. This was just a weird record. I listened to it, and it's just like, this is just sucks in a different way than 70s Queen does. What were they doing? It's like you listen to Staying Power, it's like they're trying to write a dance anthem with no low end. I mean, like, why use this keyboard bass line when you have John Deacon? John Deacon's a great bass player. Why are you, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It's like, I can almost, you can't even really say this is a Queen album, almost. It's like, it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's not really a Queen album. I mean, I don't need to do any amount of research at all on this record to tell you that the band was split on the direction that they were taking on this record. It just feels kind of like a mess. Almost like a joke of an album. It sounds like a Queen version of a Michael Jackson record, which I guess Michael Jackson was inspired by this for Thriller, and he was like, oh, this kind of sound, let's take this and let's make it good. Pretty much. I guess they have a similar kind of vibe, but I was expecting to be like angry to listen to this. I'm just baffled. It just kind of sounds like a goof. Like, I don't know why you have body language. Like, you have a whole band of talented musicians. Why are you fucking around with a Casio keyboard and a drum machine for the whole song? Like, I mean, the band is full of great musicians. I mean, this is, like, arguably the hardest album to review we've ever done, because it's like, what even is going on? I mean, I could do this in, like, 5 minutes at my keyboard. Like, Action This Day, like, why does it sound like this? Like, these are the guys who wrote Somebody to Love and Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't necessarily like those songs, but I'm missing them. I mean, like, it's like, why isn't Freddie belting? Why is he so reserved? His whole thing is his, like, is how good, his wide range. That's his whole thing. Why does he sound so muted? Like, it kind of has, it's the missing that kind of goofiness that Queen has. Probably because just a dude at a keyboard fucking around. Put Out the Fire, is, I think you can literally tell the difference in opinions on this one song. So I looked it up. This is Brian May wrote this. It sounds like he wants to write a normal rock Queen song. Would have been an album track on any of the albums. And then they came in, and then, like, half the band came in, compressed the hell out of it, and tried to make it into a dance track with the weird drum machine in the verse. And then Roger is seemingly trying to take a drum machine approach to the kit, as opposed to just a normal drum track that he would lay down in the 70s. And then Brian takes a solo over it, but it's just wonky. It just doesn't feel right. Life is Real is the first, like, actual Queen song on the record. This is back to the generic Queen that I'm not really a fan of, but honestly, here it's a breath of fresh air. I may not be the biggest fan of their identity, but they're showing who they are here. And I can respect that. It's like the real Queen, and it's nice to hear the real Queen. The breastfeeding myself line was weird, and I don't know, maybe Freddie shouldn't have written that one. Breastfeeding myself, what more can I say? You can probably say a lot more on that, Freddie. You could elaborate a little bit on what breastfeeding myself means. Calling Out Girls is kind of still that standard Queen thing. I don't think it's as good of a song as Life is Real, though. Words of Love sound like they try to do an REO Supertramp type thing. Then they have Cool Cats. That's there. Shout out to Eric Estrada. And then there's Under Pressure. Song has always kind of annoyed me, but this song has the best production on this record by far. It's like, it's like Bowie went in there himself and was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna make this song, like, it's gonna sound good because I'm on it. Sorry, it's not gonna sound like garbage." Because this album is just weirdly compressed. The real reason I don't like this song is because, like, I don't like Freddie scatting over it. Like there's just some music that's like ba-da-dee-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da, and it's like, okay, great, like cool. I don't know why you're doing that. Throughout the whole thing. And I guess there's also the 20 minutes of the 20 seconds of snapping at the end. You know, the song has like a few cool seconds, in its place. But it's just so weird. This record just does not work. Like on a fundamental level, this record does not work. Obviously, the fans of it, the fans of everything, pretty much. But I just don't understand this. This just didn't make any sense. Just as a musical experience, as a record, I mean, they were making songs that were supposed to be, like anthems and stuff, but like you can't go to a club and dance to this stuff. It's too compressed. It doesn't have any low end. Like, go to any kind of club. Go to a gay club, straight club, gentleman's club, country club, and the music's gonna be more interesting, and easier to dance to than this. I just fundamentally did not think this record worked.
Paper face.
Yep, I know. Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. All right, I came to this album with no really expectations of what to expect besides sound, but I was actually surprised at the sound this album has, because it's definitely different than the Queen I'm used to, and also the song that I know off of this album, Under Pressure. Rest of the album doesn't really sound much like it. It's the album feels so 80s. It's actually insane. The synths are very prominent. There was a lot of things to kind of vibe to on this album. Like, I was moving a little, like, to the music a little bit, but nothing that really got me. It left me wanting more. I wanted more of that big sound that, from Freddie and everyone else in the band that I know and love from Queen. Like, it's a fun enough listen. It's, it's catchy, but nothing too crazy to stand out to me. Like, besides Under Pressure, that song is great. Not much to say that's already been said. It makes sense that it was really the only survivor of this album. But also, like Matt, I did really enjoy Cool Cat as well.
Alright, that brings us to me at the end. I have kind of a different opinion. So I already talked about Under Pressure some, so I'll just mostly skip over that. This album is kind of weird. It's not really Queen's usual sound. It's kind of just a thing in and of itself. Other than, I guess, maybe Put Out the Fire, it is kind of just a thing in and of itself. I kind of like Body Language, but it's kind of weird, and I think probably needed some more work before it was put out. It really shouldn't have been a single either. It should have been a probably just an album track. Put Out the Fire is pretty good. I also am a fan of Calling All Girls. That's a song I really like from this album. For whatever reason, I really like its style. It's like, whoa, take the message and go. That's one I like. It has kind of a sing-along ability, a karaoke type vibe, I guess. Which I really do like that one. It's kind of melodramatic in a way that Great Queen song should be. Other than that, the only other song I really have much to say anything about is Life is Real, Song for Lennon, which was a song about John Lennon's death, more or less. I always thought that song was kind of stupid. I always thought its lyrics like, life is real. Well, duh. That's not... it's not as deep as they think it is. It's more or less the Queen equivalent of Candle in the Wind. It's like, I'm 14 and this is deep. And it really just isn't. It really just isn't. real battle songs about John Lennon's death. And this one, most notably the one by Paul McCartney, and one by George. Today, I guess, it's Paul McCartney one, and then is that right? No, and then also George had all those years ago, that was also better, because those were the Beatles. I remember Tom Petty also did one that was better than this. But yeah, I've always thought Life is Real is kind of stupid. But as for the album as a whole, this is an album where, yeah, it has questionable production, questionable mixing, as fans said. Its bass is very compromised. Its drum sound is also very kind of compromised compared to Sylvia's Queen. This was kind of a problem also in the 80s in general, in my opinion, with mixing. Things started to get a bit thinner, a bit tinier, I guess. Drums got thinner, the bass got thinner, and I don't know, it just was the sound of the time. I think part of it also had to do with the move from records to cassettes. But this album could use a bit of a stronger production. And quite a few of the songs all felt weak, but there was good stuff on here. Calling All Goals, Under Pressure. Under Pressure was shines nothing like really the rest of the album or really anything else by Queen, exactly, in my opinion, and partly due to Bowie's presence, but that's good. Calling All Goals, as I said, was good. Body Language needed more work, but I do think is still good. Purple Fire was good, even if, as Sam pointed out, it also had some issues with its production. Sorry, I blanked out there. I also find it ironic that the first track on this album is named Staying Power, even though this album kind of derailed partly Queen's kind of career for a bit, and also, although Queen as a whole has proved themselves to have staying power, this album really hasn't. So, I mean, there are all people who like this album. As I said, it does have, I think, a bit of a cult now, but it's still very much a kind of a minority opinion among fans of the band who love this one, so. But yeah, the main songs I really listen to from this are Under Pressure, although I mostly just have that when it's on the radio or playing over like a store speaker, because they do play that a bit, quite a good bit. And then Calling All Girls, I like Calling All Girls, but that is about it. But overall, I think this album shines the best if you just kind of like tune out, turn your brain out, don't necessarily think as this better than other Queen albums, so just be like, this is dumb fun, with the exception of maybe Under Pressure. The rest of it, just say, yeah, this is dumb fun, and kind of to take that attitude towards it. Treat it not like a Queen album, treat it like a Justin Timberlake album, and I think you'll be decently pleased with it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. And now we've gone over both of the albums, and so we are moving on to which album each one of us liked better. So we're going to start with you, Ben, as usual. Ben, which album did you like better?
Blood on the Tracks, one of my favorite albums.
That's one for Blood on the Tracks. Matthew?
Blood on the Tracks.
That's two. Fan?
There's really only one way to go, and that is Blood on the Tracks.
Well, you have to follow the tracks. You don't want to derail, so...
Exactly, you get it.
Exactly. Paper.
I enjoyed Hot Space more.
That's one for Hot Space, 3-1 right now. And me, I mean, as I said, I was more positive on Hot Space than most people, but not enough to vote for it. Blood on the Tracks, although it's not my favorite Dylan album, it was better than Hot Space, even though I was more positive on Hot Space than a lot of people. So that is 4-1, 4 in favor of Blood on the Tracks, and 1 for Hot Space. So interesting, I guess. I think some people thought this was going to be unanimous when we started this video, but it wasn't. So that's very much a interesting kind of mixed result. It was still, of course, a pretty one-sided result, but still interesting. And now we're moving on to who picked what album. So, anyone want to guess who picked what album?
I'm gonna guess both Matthew and Ben picked the Dylan record. I'm gonna say they both did. As for the hot space, I'm gonna guess it was Chris.
I think Matt picked both.
Well, Fan was right about Matthew picking Blown Tracks. He was wrong about Ben picking it. Paper was right about Matthew picking both, kind of. Hot Space was a joint pick by me and Matthew. And Blown Tracks was picked just by Bob Dylan. There was a bit of backstory as to how
Bob Dylan himself picked it?
I was like, I got messed up. Blown Tracks was picked by Matthew. It was made by Bob Dylan. But what I was going to say is there was a bit of backstory to Hot Space being picked. At some point, I made some offhand comment to Matthew that we didn't have any Queen albums picked. And he's like, we need to fix that. And we talked about it, but I said, oh, yeah, let's just pick Hot Space. And so me and Matthew kind of put it as a joint pick together. Just because of that. Because he made some comment about it. Oh, we need to do a Queen album sometime. I said, I don't think anyone's actually picked one. And it was like, let's remedy that. Which Queen album should I pick? And I discussed it. I said, Hot Space is one of the more controversial ones. So that's the only thing we've ever really done kind of like that as a joint pick. But that's why it's a me/Matthew pick. Not to be confused with a me/Matthew ship.
Huh?
Alright,
That's a weird thing to put into the universe.
Yeah.
Alright, that's about it for
Come
today's...
sail away. Come sail away.
Come
Come sail away with me.
And like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.